Add a little power. Tower Skycatcher 70241, ready 27, southbound departure.
Skycatcher 70241, side tower, south departure approved, runway 27, clear for takeoff.
Clear, go 27241. Okay, so left hand on the stick, right hand on the throttle. As we taxi out on the runway, we want to take a peek off to the right to make sure nobody's coming in to land. So final looks clear. Then you just want to align yourself with the center line. Once we are straightened out, then go ahead and bring the power up. Have your heels on the floor so you're not using the brakes. And bring the power all the way in. Going to need quite a bit of right rudder initially because of the left turning tendency, so just hold a little right rudder. And as soon as you get about 50 knots right here, bring the nose up a little bit. So we bring the nose up a little bit. There we go. Perfect. Keep it right there. Want to keep your right hand on the throttle throughout the departure and climb out.
Riverside Tower, Skylane 182, Victor, Victor, holding short, runway 27 with Charlie, ready for takeoff. Skylane 182, Victor, Victor, Riverside Tower, what direction would you like to depart? Let's go left downwind departure to the east. Skylane 2, Victor, Victor, the Cessna head is departing to the south.
What's the rate of climb we're looking for? Basically, you want to set it to
27, clear for takeoff.
Be about 65 knots on the initial climb. And whatever you get as far as the feet per minute climb is whatever you get. That'll vary from day to day depending on temperatures and elevations and all that stuff. And about here we're going to start our turn out to the south, so we check for traffic by lifting the left wing up a little bit and see that we don't have anybody there, and then go ahead and make your left turn to the south. And once you have gotten up about 500 feet above the ground here, then you want to go to kind of a cruise climb, which is about 75, so it's a little lower of a nose attitude, which provides better visibility, also provides better cooling for the engine.
What's the bank angle, ideally?
Ideally, whatever you're comfortable with, anywhere to, standardly 20 to 30 degrees is kind of what we use to turn.
And throughout this period, should I be concentrating on power control, or is that come into play?
Well, the power is basically at full power as we continue to climb. Most small airplanes, you use full power. As you get into a little bit more complex aircraft, they will have maybe a little extra thrust, so once you get up to a safe altitude, you power back slightly, but most small planes, you will be at full power during the climb.
We understand the band relationship, and I'm telling you what,
And we'll use the pitch angle to control the airspeed during our climb.
Yes, pitch always controls airspeed, so pitch to find your 75, then kind of memorize what does that look like, where is my nose in relativity to the horizon, and then you kind of just, kind of keep it there. You don't need to really look at the instruments once you get comfortable with looking outside. So basically we want to spend about 80% of the time looking outside and looking once in a while inside just to kind of see, what's going on, checking on altitudes, airspeeds, and the engine instruments and so forth. But the easiest way to learn how to fly and do it well is to be comfortable with what does my airplane look like at different attitudes as I'm flying. Just like if we did like this, we should be able to know what we're doing.
So 182 Victor Victor, frequency change approved. Frequency change approved, 182 Victor Victor.
What I'm trying to say is we don't really need the instruments to fly. So as we learn, it's, you can listen and hear the engine sound. So as we bring the nose up, you'll hear the engine is burdened a little bit more. If you lower the nose, you'll feel the engine is, going to provide more noise. Obviously, it sounds more, so you can almost close your eyes and you can kind of know what the attitude the plane is in based on what you're hearing, what you're feeling to some extent. But we'll go ahead and bring the screens back up so we can see where we're at here.
Just a couple of minor adjustments on the pitch really makes a big difference on the pressure you have to apply.
You mean on the trim?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, trimming it off a little bit just makes your job easier as the pilot, so anything there is that can make our job easier is always a good thing. Getting up to about 3,400, we'll go to 3,500 and we'll level off there. And once you get to your altitude, you lower the nose to straight and level, let the airspeed build up a little bit, and then reduce power to about 2,300. And you have your RPM there too. So
and you reduce to what RPMs?
about 2,300. So pull the power back so we get about 2,300 RPM.
Vacation, and Olivia will talk to you on Monday. Good night.
MLB Network Radio, XM 89, Sirius 209. PGA Championship moments on Sirius XM. Favorite Phil edged out Thomas Bjorn and Steve Elkington in a Monday morning finish to claim his second major championship, becoming the first left-hander to ever win the PGA Championship. Conquering the narrow fairways and lightning-fast greens was a great way to cap off the season.
Matthews traffic, Skycatcher 241, north side of the lake, 3,500.
Lake Matthews traffic, Sky 52070, 3,500, east side of the lake.
Okay, let's go ahead and make a right turn towards the mountains over there.
$14.99. No, that's right. High quality prescription eyeglasses with the lenses included for just $15. No. Yep, our name says it all. Great eyeglasses.
A crocodile can hold its breath for 3 hours. Excellent for curing hiccups. But a grasshopper can make your small business sound big. The web-based Grasshopper virtual...
Now what we have here as the practice area basically is the tip of the lake behind you to your left, along the hills and across to the mountain range on the other side, and then up the mountain range along the 15 freeway to the 91-15 intersection, which is kind of off of our right wing over there. And then from that point back down behind us to the tip of the lake. And that area here, we can pretty much do whatever we want to do without having to call anybody. We're not in anybody's way or airspace. And you can see it on the map display here. I'll zoom in a little bit. So here's the lake we just passed. And just behind us to our left here is March Air Force Base airspace. The dashed circle and this magenta line, we need to talk to them if we're going to be within that. Over here on our right is Ontario's airspace, and we need to talk to them if we're going to be within their airspace. And then down to the right, south of us here is Orange County's airspace. So basically, in this little box that we have here, we can kind of do whatever we want without being in anybody's way. If we're going to go east, northwest, or southwest, then we would need to talk to somebody. So... and once we get out here into the practice area, we basically want to listen and on the frequency for the practice area is 23.5. So we monitor that and make an announcement like we did as we come into it, and that way anybody here would know that we're here. And at the same time, being that there's no requirement necessarily to use the radio out here, we want to do what we call a clearing turn. And you can do that a number of different ways, but basically you want to clear the airspace around you. So the easiest way is to do a 90-degree turn to one direction and then back to the other direction. That way you can clear almost a whole 360 degrees. So let's go ahead and make a right turn about 90 degrees to the right. While we're doing that, you're watching over on your left to clear that airspace because you have the wing up on that side, so you can look to your left and slightly behind you and see what's going on there. Continue the right turn up to about along with the freeway there. So we've changed about 90 degrees of course, and we've cleared that whole area. Now if we go back the other way, now we can clear this whole area on my side and see that we don't have anybody close by. So that's the first thing. The other thing is we want to pick an altitude that allows us to do any of these maneuvers, you know, with enough space to be able to recover. Should we inadvertently do something like, you know, get into a stall or whatever. And so pick an altitude that's about, you know, 2,500 feet above the ground or so. That's a lot of margin of safety there. Elevation out here varies obviously because of the hills, but right of where you are now, it's probably about 1,200.
Terrain ahead.
So we're at 3,300, so that's, you know, at least 2,000 feet above the surface. Safe enough. So, okay, so the four fundamentals of flying is basically straight and level like you are right now, and then you have climbs and descents and turns. And what we want to do is kind of get comfortable putting all that together. So let's do a climb starting here straight ahead. So you raise the nose, get about 75, and at the same time come in with the power all the way in. And so just like we did as we were coming out, you're doing a climb, and the airspeed is controlled with the pitch.
A little right rudder because of the increased power.
Because of the right turning tendencies, yes, you need a little right rudder to maintain directional control because of the, or coordination rather, because of the left turning tendencies. There are four of them, and it's all because of the prop turning to the right, making kind of the plane wanting to veer off to the left, and it's more noticeable with the high nose attitude and with the high power setting. It's not quite as noticeable.
Bit of a gyroscopic effect.
Yeah, that's one of them. There's four, like I said. Gyroscopic is one, and you have P-factor, which basically means the prop is taking a little bigger bite of air on the descending side, and that has a left turning tendency. Then you have spiral slipstream, which means that you have airflow from the propeller slipstream that's actually curving around our fuselage, ends up hitting on the left side of the elevator, of the horizontal stabilizer, thus making the plane kind of veer to the left. And the other one is
Travis, you in the navigator?
gyroscopic, P-factor, spiral slipstream, and gosh, can't remember what the fourth one is now all of a sudden. Alright, so while we're climbing here, let's do a right climbing turn. So, as you go into a bank in the turn, the nose will tend to kind of maybe want to drop a little bit, so you need just a little extra back pressure perhaps. We're still shooting for the same airspeed though, so you pitch to point it, you know, whatever the airspeed is that you wish to have. Okay, and let's go ahead and do a level off again. So you lower the nose back right about there, and then you'll hear the airspeed increase because you've lowered the nose, and you hear the engine is basically sounding like it's working harder. So again, you want to reduce the power to about 2,300 or so just for practice purposes. If we were actually on a cross country and we wanted to get, you know, max forward speed, we would use a power setting of about 2,500. That's about 75% power. But for practice purposes, 2,300 is perfect. Okay, let's do a left turn back up towards the northeast. So lift the wing slightly and look for traffic before you turn. And once you see that you don't have anybody right there, you go ahead and start your turn. Every time you make a turn, the nose will tend to want to drop a little bit. And so you have to always make small corrections on the pitch as you make your turn. So get into about 20 or 30 degrees of bank. Each line is 10, so you got 10, 20, 30. And then the little one between the 60 and 30 is 45.
Obviously, there's no tape
climb?
No, we had leveled off, so basically we were
just keeping it level.
Yeah, straight and level at that point. So go ahead and continue the turn back up towards the lake there. Okay, so you've done a climb, you've done turns, you've done some straight and level. Now if you want to descend, what controls altitude is our power. So if you reduce your power to about maybe, say 1800, pulling it back. And if you don't use anything with the stick, if you just let go of the stick, so to speak, gotta turn forward a little bit here, but if you just pull back power, you'll see how the nose automatically kind of drops. So altitude is controlled with power, so as you pull power back, the nose drops. And again, if we want to maintain a constant airspeed, you use the pitch to maintain that speed. And typically when you're descending, you don't necessarily need to, have a certain speed. Sometimes you might want to, but the key is to just not, be doing like 100 too much, so to speak. We have airspeed ranges that we have to be cautious of. You can't go too fast because at certain speeds you're basically putting too much stress on the airframe, and so there are restrictions basically for what we have to abide by. Okay, once you get down to whatever altitude you want, let's say 4,000, then go ahead and bring the nose back to a straight and level attitude, and then you smoothly bring the power back up to 2,300, and that's how we do a level off from the descent. Okay, so you have those four fundamental attitudes basically of climb, descend, straight and level, and banks or turns. And we can put those together, of course, so that you can do climbing turns or descending turns, and basically have control of the plane in all areas. Okay. Let's do a couple of steep turns. We can use the mountains there as a reference point, and we're go ahead and get back up to 4,000 so we have a nice even altitude to play with.
Lake Matthews traffic helicopter 119 is on the south shore, traveling northbound at 2,000, Lake Matthews. Matthews traffic, Skycatcher 241 is just on the southwest side of the lake, 4,000.
Okay, so we'll use the San Gabriel Mountains over there as a reference point. We'll power back a little bit here again to about 2,300. Okay, so when we do a little bit steeper turns, in order for us to be able to maintain altitude, we have to use some back pressure on the controls. And in order for us to make that work right, as we roll into the turn, we increase the back pressure gradually. So I'll do one with you. You can just kind of see how it works. A little on the high side here, but we'll just keep that 4060 or 4060 as a reference altitude. So let's do one to your left so we check and see we don't have any traffic over there. And we roll into our left, so 45 degrees of bank is kind of right there, and as we are in the turn, we are using a little back pressure so that the horizon just kind of slides along the center of the cowling or the nose here. And the object is to keep the nose there so that we maintain our altitude as we come around the turn. airplane right below us there.
Lake Matthews traffic helicopter 11 Alpha is over the North Dam traveling.
And there's our reference point again, so we roll out. Looks like we gained about 40 feet in that turn. Felt that little bump right there. That's us coming back around and hitting our own propeller
Matthews
wash.
traffic Sky 52070,
Okay.
east side of the lake,
So
3,500.
you can do those both to your left and to your right. And as far as correcting, if you notice that as you're in the turn, maybe the nose is coming down a little bit, what you do is roll out of the turn and bring the nose back up. And if you see that the nose is a little too high, just roll in a few degrees more and then it'll come back down. So go ahead and try one to your left.
Matthews traffic, Skycatcher 341 northwest side of the lake, 4000.
Letting the nose drop quite a bit there, so roll out of the turn a little bit, bring the nose back up. Okay, level the wings again. And lost a little bit of altitude on that one, so you just have to kind of
Gauge that a little closer.
yeah, just try to keep it a little more. Go ahead and try one more to your left. So as you get into the bank here, just pull back slightly, and continue to roll into the turn with a little bit of back pressure, and just let the nose kind of ride along the horizon. Kind of dropping a little bit there, so roll out a little bit, and bring the nose back up, and then roll back in. A little steep on the bank, just keep it at 45. Don't let the nose drop though. Roll out a little bit, bring the nose back up, and roll back in. So you basically just make small corrections as you're going around to try to keep it where it's at. Okay, and there's our reference point. Alright. Go ahead and make a right turn back towards the south here. We're getting a little close to Riverside and other airspace. Now, once you get more comfortable with the turns, you'll be able to do that without losing pretty much any altitude at all. The requirement for the check ride is you have to do it without losing or gaining plus minus 100 feet. So, alrighty. And go ahead and use something at whatever you like that you see out there as a reference point. And let's go ahead and try one to the right.
Hey, my name is Mitch. I'm a zombie, and I love my system. It's 39 miles per gallon highway, so it's perfect for long drives. When you're a zombie, it's stuck stopping for gas.
Lake Matthews traffic Star 52070, 3,500, descending to 2,500, leaving this area to Chino Airport.
Lake Matthews traffic, Cessna CF Hotel, currently 3 miles, correction, 4 miles north-southwest of the lake, transiting north along the 15th freeway to Ramona. Lake Matthews traffic.
And that's about where we started. And again, you feel the little bump that you hit there, that's you coming through in the circle and basically catching up with your own propeller wash, so.
Now if you were different in height by or so, would you still feel that?
No. I mean, the propeller wash as you're going is going to descend slightly, you know, but if you're doing a 360 like that, you'll typically catch your own top wash before it dissipates. So that's kind of what you're feeling there is that. So, alrighty. Let's go ahead and do a little slow flight practice so we can go ahead and reduce power to about maybe 1800 RPMs. And at the same time just ease back little by little, and what we're doing is just slowing our plane down. And you can go ahead and pull 10 degrees of flaps, so you just pull back on that, there you go. And another one to 25. And the last one to 40. Okay, so with full flaps, the plane will slow down and be kind of sluggish, and we'll use whatever power we need to maintain altitude. We're aiming for about 50 knots, just like you have there, which is about 6-7 knots above the stall speed. Actually, it's a little more than that. It's about 8 knots or so above the stall.
That's the red indicator there.
Yeah, the red is just getting to the bottom there, so to speak. So the stall speed for this aircraft with all the flaps and everything is 37 knots. And with the flaps up, it's 41. So 50 is kind of maybe a little on the fast side, but it's easy enough. So while we're in slow flight, you have to use, like I said, whatever power to maintain altitude. So if you're descending, you add a little power. We can't really change the pitch because we're aiming for, you know, the 50, and you're not going to be able to change pitch much because you're kind of already getting close to your angle of maximum angle of attack there. Or the critical angle of attack, I guess we should say. Okay, let's do a right turn over towards the mountains there.
2 miles west of the lake at 3,300, descending to 2,500 around the 15th river, northbound along the 15th river. Lake Matthews traffic.
Aircraft over Lake Matthews there, that's a loud squeal in the background of your transmit. Okay, so as you're doing a turn with the airplane configured for slow flight like this, the plane is kind of sluggish. You'll notice that, you know, it doesn't respond as quickly, it kind of lags behind, so we don't have as much effectiveness over the controls, and that's because the airspeed is obviously slower, so there's less airflow over the controls. So we have to be a little more patient, and like if you make a turn to the right, let's say here, as you roll in, it takes a little while for the plane to catch up, and once it starts to roll in, then you almost have to kind of sit and hold it back a little bit because it'll tend to kind of want to continue to bank in. And again, the plane is a little sluggish because of the reduced airflow over the